What up, crew? Today we're gonna make this massive sign with a drill and a saw. Let's check it out. Oh yeah, it also lights up. So I started out by taking the text and making it 1,300 times larger and printing off the stencil in Photoshop and Illustrator. After taping all the sheets together, I know how long and wide I needed the wood to be. I went to the hardware store and had them cut these half-inch plywood boards down to 4 feet by 5 feet. This sign was commissioned by Eric, which is an awesome company showing young people how to get involved in creative industries. They have a festival coming up and wanted a sign that was bright and bold, so I went big. Now, this would be much easier to do on a CNC machine, but mine isn't large enough, plus I wanted to show what could be done with just a jigsaw and a drill. And to start completely fresh, I bought this saw the first day and started using it straight out of the box. I changed back and forth from inside to outside, or when it started to rain, or if my hands got so cold that they went numb. But I don't want to make a mess indoors if I don't have to. Now let's slow things down a bit. I would take off the large chunks, then get detailed along the line, and go back for the intricate V shapes and difficult curves. It actually became somewhat therapeutic going along the lines and trying to figure out ways the cutting path can work. Overall, I'm really impressed that this one blade could handle all the different types of cuts I was throwing at it. I used simple spray adhesive to attach the paper to the wood, and found a good trick on removing it. We'll get to that part in a bit. One problem that I ran into was if I was carving the jagged edges that stuck out, sometimes the plywood had a tendency to break off because it was a fragile spiky section with very little support. The vibration of the saw could rattle the separate layers of plywood apart and they would break away. A trick I figured out was to only go a little ways in and take out the middle parts piece by piece. I'm still learning Illustrator and Photoshop, so when I printed the stencil, there were gaps in the separation of the paper because I didn't want it to bleed over the edge, so I'm just going in by hand and drawing in the connections. Done. Now that the major sawing is done, I'm taking a bit of the finer pieces and doing the inner detailed work. Again, I gotta say that although jigsaws get a bad rap for not being able to leave a clean cut, I was really impressed with the type of detail that I wanted. By the way, ERIC is an acronym for Education, Revolutionary, Inspirational, and Creative, in case you were wondering why it's spelled with a C rather than a K. But if you have a K word that's good, let me know in the comments, other than Kerchma. It also helped that I had the glue and paper so the top plywood layer wouldn't splinter off, and it left a nice clean edge. It didn't need to be perfect because I'm going to sand it, and the Rocky Road type font actually allowed me to leave the sign somewhat jagged. The nice tip I found was to use a heat gun to loosen the glue and remove the paper. Now my hands are getting too warm. And this is what we have so far. Now for some sanding in the moonlight. I wanted to take off the outer layer of glue and scuff up the wood enough to give the paint something to grip. I'm giving the letters a couple coats of white primer before the sprayed colors. This is going to strengthen the wood so little pieces won't break off on the edges. For attaching the letters to the stands, I'm gluing some blocks together which will be used as the connection to the post. The great thing about having the individual letters on separate movable stands is that it allows the sign to be positioned in many different ways rather than just on a solid background. It's also a lot more collapsible for moving around. I drilled these all the way through on the back and then countersunk the front part so the screws could be flush. I then glued it all up and painted the rest of the missing spots. We came up with the idea of having it backlit, and these battery-packed 2-meter lights are great for having them cycle through many different color patterns, or just being on with one solid light. You can't tell in the daytime if the little LEDs are on, but if leaning up against a dark wall or in the evening, it really adds a cool effect. This was a massive fun project. I want to give a big shout out to Eric Festival. It's going to be happening this Sunday. If you like this kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. And let's leave out of here by lighting up a quote.